Welcome. This is Jeremy Crow. And first off, I wanted to say Happy Father's Day to anybody who celebrates it in some fashion. Hopefully, you had a good one. And tonight, I wanted to talk to you about whether or not Luciferianism is left hand path. But before we do that, I thought it would be fun to start this off with a quick divination. I see there's a couple people here already. Beyond Zebra, howdy. The Occult Corner, welcome. And happy Father's Day. True. Great. Glad to see you here. All right, let me just set the mic down here and I'm going to shuffle the deck. So I use the Hermetic Tarot. It's one of the ones that I use a lot. It's something that I just really enjoy the artwork and yeah, it's just something I've felt drawn to for quite a while. So let me make sure this is all in order here. All right. This will be for anybody who is watching live or recorded after the fact. Right. Okay, what do we have here? Let me put my glasses on too, actually. Oh, wow. All right, we have the Last Judgment card. If you can see that. Now, on this card, they use the traditional Golden Dawn attributions. And in this one, they have a title, which is the Spirit of the Primal Fire. Now, the underlying symbol. Okay, actually, first let me explain something. Every major arcana card in the tarot, and in a standard deck, there are 22 of them. At each one, there is one core underlying symbol that informs the card. And these are either three elements, the three principal elements, the 7 planets of classical astrology, and the 12 standard zodiac signs of tropical astrology. In this case, it's one of the elemental cards. And just like the title says, it's fire. So the Judgment card in the tarot, the underlying symbol for that is fire. Now, fire typically refers to some of the more explosive passions. It's beyond just like regular emotion, but it is things like rage, lust, driving motivation, that sort of thing. And if you're feeling any of that right now, that could be a symbol of what's going on there. And this, it's just kind of a fun way of exploring these cards and talking about tarot and just getting familiar with it. And I like to refer to this as the crucible, actually, because it is one of those fundamental cards. It's one of the 3 principal elements of alchemy. And a crucible in alchemy is a vessel that can withstand a very high heat, and you put the material in there that you want to incinerate. And that anything that is not immortal, as they say, will fly off as an impurity. And what's left are the will, if you burn it long enough, all that will be left is white ash. And those you can purify even further to get to leach out the salts, the water soluble salts of that. And it's like a symbol of purification, of ridding yourself of that which is unnecessary, that which does not serve you, and allows you to be more focused on your goals. So burn off those impurities, get rid of those habits that are holding you back. If you've been feeling that you need to make a change, that's your signal to go ahead and pull the trigger and actually make the change and get that going in your life. Burn yourself up in that crucible, and what's left will be the most essential parts that will help bring you closer towards achieving the quintessence, the fifth element, that synthesis of those three elemental, the three principal elements, purified, refined, focused. And once you can get all three of them purified and focused and refined, you recombine them, and the fifth element, the quintessence, manifests from that. I'm seeing here Beyond Zebra saying, wow, that is accurate AF for me currently. That's great. Okay, I see we got a couple other people here. Mr. Fantastic Bear, welcome, welcome. KCM, welcome. CRV, welcome. Oh yeah, we got a bunch of people here today. Okay, great. All right, well, let's get started on our topic here. Is Luciferianism actually left-hand path, or is it right-hand path, or is it something else? Is it can we categorize it into one of those two categories? Well, let's start off by actually defining what the right-hand path and left-hand path actually represent. In Western occultism, in the Western esoteric tradition, we talk about these divisions between whether something is a left-hand path or whether it is a right-hand path. The right-hand path typically refer to some of the more mainstream, even institutionalized forms of religion, such as standard Christianity. That's one of the biggest ones that we have in Western culture. Now, the meanings of right-hand path and left-hand path have a little bit different meaning in Eastern traditions, such as Hinduism and Buddhism. But what I'm talking about here is considering Luciferianism is a Western tradition, we're going to be using the Western definitions of left-hand path, right-hand path. Right-hand path generally refers to giving up your own individual will, becoming a vehicle or a vessel of the universal will, or becoming a channel of God's will. You could call it different things, but essentially you are trying to become a vessel or a tool or a vehicle for universal will, God, whatever you want to call it, to enact that will in the world. And it typically involves altruism, valuing the group over the individual in general, things like self-sacrifice, and ultimately at the end of the right-hand path, you are absorbed in ecstatic union with the divine. Now, the left-hand path, on the other hand, tends to be more individualistic. It's the individual sometimes even glorifying the ego, but in the more refined sense, it is the taking of what makes an individual unique and amplifying that, taking that and going with it, exploring it, and become ultimately achieving a state of. So I'm not sure if you missed anything there. I'll just repeat that. On the left hand path, one of the first levels of it is to achieve what's referred to as autotheism, or being one's own god, or that it's like a symbolic or poetic way of saying that you are your own highest authority in your own life, that you make your own decisions based on what makes the most sense for you on your own path. And I apologize for any cutting out. I'm not sure why. Got a pretty high speed internet, but sometimes it, I guess this evening, maybe, I don't know, solar flares or something. But the left hand path, ultimately, you become a god in your own right, a force of nature influencing how the world plays out, how things play out in the world, or depending on which version of it, sometimes you exit this reality completely to form your own kind of bubble universe, which you are the god of. So ultimately, the right hand path is the path of merging in union, in ecstatic union with God, the existing God or universal will, whereas the left hand path is becoming your own God in one way or another, your own God, a God within this existing universe, or the God of a new universe that you spawn. So, which of these is Luciferianism? Now, there are a bunch of other considerations as well. The element of conformity in the right hand path versus rebellion and individualism in the left hand path. You have the idea of what was the word I was looking for here? In the left hand path, you have kind of subversive figures that inspire the individual practitioner, such as demonic or devils or fallen angels, that sort of thing, whereas people tend to work with angels, saints, divinity itself, that sort of thing in the right hand path. Now, in the Luciferian path, and in particular the Gnostic Luciferian path of that I practice, which is what I teach in the Novus Ordo Luciferi. And I'll just take an aside here. After this live stream, there will be a private Novus Ordo Luciferi members hangout. If you are interested in participating in that, there is a link in the description below that has a link to the Patreon page for the Novus Ordo Luciferi, the NOL. And it's just $5 a month if you wanted to join. You can join for even just 1 month if you want to check it out. And that grants you access to these private hangouts. A couple nights ago, we had a private lesson that was recorded, and that, along with any other previously recorded lesson, formalized lesson, will be available to people who join the order. So there's an entire back catalog of video lessons that that have been recorded, and there's over 40 hours worth at this point of recorded lessons that you would get access to if you became a member for $5, including you'll get a chance to access the private members hangouts that are casual and not recorded, which we're going to have one tonight after this live stream. So the link is in the description below if you are interested in joining that and checking it out. Like I said, it's only $5. So in the Novus Ordo Luciferi, we practice Gnostic Luciferianism, and in that, I talk a lot about the light bearer archetype. And if you are practicing Luciferianism, one of the ways that you can practice that is by seeking to embody that light bearer archetype in your own life, in your own way, in your own unique circumstances. So, for example, a couple nights ago on the live stream, I discussed a light bearer from 1500 in the area of the world now known as Korea, and that was King Sejong, and he rebelled against the rest of the ruling class in order to provide tools for literacy that the working class ended up adopting and empowering themselves through the ability to communicate, to obtain knowledge through the written word, etc. And the ruling class didn't like that because it undermined their power base. But he loved his people and he wanted them to have the gift of knowledge and the ability to access knowledge. And so he created this alphabet called Hangul. And if you want to learn more about that, check out my channel under the past live streams and you'll see it in there. It was just from a couple days ago. So that's one example of a human, an individual who embodied the light bearer archetype. Now, let me just kind of go through this because it's very relevant to the question. So, to embody the light bearer archetype, it's very similar to what Prometheus did as well in the myths. So, you would seek out hidden and forbidden knowledge, or maybe you just happen to come across it in some way by accident. But you obtain this hidden or forbidden knowledge and you share it with others, especially those who are looking for that information. But you make it available. And you do so in the hopes that those individuals can empower themselves with that knowledge. And even better, if that knowledge can undermine a power structure that's built on twisting knowledge and or exploiting ignorance, if you can undermine those power structures with this sharing of knowledge, that's even better. So what ends up happening often, sorry about the weather, or not weather, noises in the background. I have my window open today because it's a little warm in here. But when that happens, when you share that knowledge, often there is a backlash there from that power, from the power structure, basically from individuals who benefit from power structures that you're undermining. They fear the loss of their power and influence because of this knowledge being available to the public. And they will often lash out, and sometimes it can be very severe, like in the case of Galileo Galilei, when he shared information that disagreed with the established doctrine of the Roman Catholic Church at the time, which was extremely powerful. And this information he was talking about, there being other planets and out there beyond what we could see, and that Earth rotated around the sun, and there was some information that he was giving out that disagreed with the established doctrine of the Roman Catholic Church, and him sharing that knowledge undermined their power structure, and they lashed out hardcore. Just like with Prometheus, right? Prometheus, he shared the knowledge of how to utilize fire with the human species, which made them less dependent on the gods of Olympia, of Mount Olympus, such as Zeus and that. And Prometheus was severely punished for sharing that knowledge. And I can go over several different examples of this. That backlash isn't always present, such as in the example of King Sejong. Because he was so powerful, what could they do? He was the king, right? Similarly, in mythology, you have Enki from Sumerian, later called Ea in the Babylonian tradition. He was one of these ruling gods, and he went against the other ones, especially his brother Enlil, to share knowledge with humans in order to help them survive these cataclysms that were inflicted upon them by Enlil. And he went behind the back of the other gods to share that forbidden knowledge with the people, so that they could survive a series of different genocidal attempts from Enlil and the other gods. But he didn't really experience a huge backlash because, like I said, he was one of those ruling gods. They couldn't really do much. But in a lot of these cases, embodying that light bearer archetype does come with the risk, great personal risk sometimes. And there's that element of altruism there. So that's not present in any other left-hand path that I'm aware of. Luciferianism generally does get lumped in with the left-hand path. And I can understand why. Lucifer is a very rebellious archetype. It is a huge part of Luciferianism is about apotheosis, achieving your own ascension to godhood, your own personal godhood, and not just merging with some godhead. And so you have elements of both, actually. I think that probably it's closer to the left-hand path than the right-hand path when we fully examine it, but it's not so easily categorized, is it? When we look at the actual light bearer archetype and what it involves, including that personal risk to share knowledge to make the world a better place, right? It's not just about your own path and your own journey. It's about leaving the place, leaving this world more free than you found it. To use your lifespan in order to make this world a freer place than you found it. And that often comes with risk. So that level of altruism, as I said, does not exist in any other left-hand path that I can think of. If you consider Setian philosophy, for example, like as taught in the Temple of Set, or you have, Satanism, whether you have the standard LaVeyan style Satanism or any other variant of Satanism that you can find out there, such as theistic. There's a bunch of different paths out there that are considered left-hand path. And I don't think that you have that element of altruism, that personal risk in order to make the world a better place or to help others. There's no drive there in those other ones. But that drive exists within the Luciferian path to share that knowledge, to teach people. And that's not just purely to help yourself, although there are benefits that you can obtain through teaching. And we can, discuss that, or we can discuss that in the comments below here. But Oh, CRV Vancouver says, don't forget to thumbs up and share. Yeah, I should probably say that aloud because, you know, it does really help the algorithm. And if you want this knowledge to spread, that that's one way to help show the algorithm that this is a interesting topic that people might want to check out. Also, if you wanted to help the channel out, we are accepting super chats through YouTube where you can basically tip me as a creator through the YouTube platform, and I'll receive some of those. YouTube takes its chunk, but it is a way to support the channel and what I'm doing here. And that's basically all I wanted to share with you today. What do you think? Is Luciferianism left-hand path? Is it right-hand path? Or is it a path that isn't so easily categorized into either of those two things? Does it transcend that duality? I wouldn't exactly say it's a middle path. I kind of, that term kind of rubs me the wrong way. Maybe because I considered myself left-hand path, like hardcore for so long. But yeah, I don't know. Is it a middle path? Maybe it is. Oh, thank you so much, Occult Corner, for the super chat. I love you with a thank you hands. I really appreciate that, Occult Corner. So before I sign off here, I wanted to remind everybody that I'm going to be doing these pretty much every night, roughly around 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be doing around a half an hour or so of live streaming, and we're going to cover all kinds of different topics related to Luciferianism, the occult, the left-hand path, exploring what that means, anything beyond that as well, such as we discussed tonight. We can talk about alchemy. We can talk about lucid dreaming and astral projection. We're going to get into all sorts of interesting topics and share that knowledge with anybody who's looking for it freely through this public channel. As well, if you're interested in joining a private community where we get into some really in-depth stuff, including a system of occultism that I developed over the course of about 30 years of practice and refinement, and developing my own individual practices through exploration and experimentation. And that system of occultism that I've developed is called Luciferian Alchemy. And that includes a set of practices such as rituals, energy work. We're getting into a type of breath work that I refer to as poison path pranayama, which is a unique form of breath work that is not taught in any other occult school. You get access to a community of dedicated occultists who are practicing this Luciferian alchemy in order to manifest the quintessence within themselves to achieve apotheosis. And we also get into some really advanced lucid dreaming and astral projection techniques and practices. And there is a course that you'll get access to if you join the order through the Patreon, link below in the description. You'll get access to that video course, which I think is something like 6 hours long, and it gets into really advanced material. And I hope some of you will be inspired to come back tomorrow, come back, every other evening when we're doing these public live streams to share knowledge with the world, as well as consider joining our private community with the Novus Ordo Luciferi. And when we sign off here, I'm going to take a short break. We're going to come back at 11:11 Eastern Time, and start. Tonight, we're going to just do a casual hangout with members where we can just talk about whatever we want, unstructured. It won't be recorded, so you can feel free to talk about whatever you feel like without having any kind of self-conscious whatever. And if you want to ask me any questions, that sort of thing. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do shortly. And I want to thank everybody who showed up tonight to participate in the live stream. Do we have any other comments here? Mr. Fantastic Bear has an opinion. It's both left and right at the same time, as well as neither. It is man's perspective that makes it left and right. In the higher, it's something different. Interesting, yeah. You know what I've heard some people say, and I think it's kind of cheeky, but it's kind of cool too, where people say, I'm a complete individual and I use both my right and my left hand. And some people refer to that as the ambidextrous path, which I think is kind of cool. Personally, I like to refer to it as the complete path, and with the goal of achieving the complete harmonized self. I don't like the term higher self. And I'll get into that. Maybe we'll get into that tomorrow. Why I don't like the term higher self and what I say in its place, essentially. Let's see here. Oh, there's another comment. Mr. Fantastic Bear also said the physical realms and the spiritual realms have different ways of perceiving everything. Yeah. So there's a Hermetic axiom that's as above, so below. And if you look at the original from the Emerald Tablet, not Emerald Tablets, which is a fraudulent book, like a document, but the original genuine Emerald Tablet, which is just like a couple paragraphs, within that, the more elaborate way of saying that is that which is above is like that which is below, and that which is below is like that which is above, for the performance of the miracles of the one true thing. So the way I interpret that is that one level of experience, you could say, can inform other levels. So you have the physical level, let's say, which I refer to as the waking experience or the solar dream. And you have the astral plane, or some people refer to it as the spiritual realms. I like to refer to it as a lunar dream. Those you can learn things from one by studying the other, but there are some differences. And you have to be aware of what those differences are so that you can kind of translate between them and take those lessons from one realm to the other. So, and we can get into that in one of these future live streams too, which, like I said, I'm going to try and do pretty much every night around 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. So we're coming up close to when I'm going to start the Novus Ordo Luciferi casual hangout. And so I'm going to close this down for the evening. Thanks again, Occult Corner, for your super chat. Thank you, everybody here who participated in the live stream, who showed up, and anybody who's watching this as an archive later on. I really appreciate you. And until next time, everybody, stay lucid.